We weren't gonna settle for almost anywhere. My mind is still blown that this is outside my house.
So Lindsay, how long did you spend? That's awesome.
Over a month.
Tinkering away in here, huh?
Yep.
All right. That is hilarious. Well, Brian, I've been in this business for a long time. This is a first. Yeah. Look at this. Oh, I love the way it smells in here. How cool is this? Look at this.
Mark was really good. My sister April was here. That is her masterpiece back there. And then the rest of it was me in here for a month.
Each little piece put in place. And look at her roof.
Lindsay, is that mortar?
This has mortar on it. Yeah, it's one of the only ones that has mortar on it.
So this is the drip line. So drips all the way out. Fantastic work. So, Mr. Adams, where should we begin with your dream that I am now calling the nicest certified aquascape contractor personal pond that I have ever seen?
That is what I like to hear right there. Boom.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
How does it feel to sit back and to be able to enjoy your creation?
It's awesome. It really is. And I mean, we've been at this thing for 7 years now, since the dream began. I walk up and I look out my window in the morning and my mind is still blown that this is outside my house. The level of art that everybody brought to the table. Artist of the Year carries a heavy weight with it. All these people want to be a part of this project, but then they get here and it's like the bar is set so high on every little detail. It was pressure to pull it off, and every single little thing in here is some idea that I hijacked. Yep. Somebody else's job, somebody else's style, somebody, you know, some different project. You got the grotto. I wasn't even going to do a grotto. When we finished the wetland portion, I was just doing a big waterfall there. And I was in England over at MJ's and I saw that little small grotto they had built in the back of Energy Falls in the back of his garden, and I was like, man, my grandkids would love that. Gotta put it in there, gotta figure out how to do it. So we come back with that. And the edge detail, the vertical flagstone along the outside of the house, you know, the idea was to be able to toss the grandkids out the window. That was the joke, right? Not that it's not gonna happen, but okay, now I gotta do a vertical wall and I don't have the real estate to make a really big swim pond, but I want to be able to swim out here and not be kicking the bottom of the pond. So I had to go 6 feet deep. I used the detail work that I did for Ed in Columbia project at Primavera Urbana. I was kind of working on that whole flagstone edge, and a lot of what I did there was integrated into the vertical wall along the side of the house. The fire pit was inspired by the work that we did on the build for Shaquille O'Neal.
Actually, John, are you filming right now? Because you should take all the credit in the world for organizing all this stuff. So John,
no. And that whole fire pit gas thing that I was working on there got the gears turning of how can I make this organic, you know, my things, natural stone and wood. So I got to figure out how to take that idea and blend it. And just a lot of other people, you know, the good ideas along the way. We had a retaining wall. We had a nice clean curved wall along the outside of this splash pad when this portion was finished. And I literally walked out here one day with my buddy Aaron and he's like, you're building up to the splash pad, which I get, but if you were talking to anybody else, you would definitely not be thinking inside the box. You would rip the edge of this out and make it mush and lose the straight lines and thus the integration of the edges. It's just been a lot of good people and a lot of good ideas and a lot of love and energy. Once we decided to do the grotto down there, I literally told Lindsay, go ham in there, do you. And bringing April in for a couple days, I think, was just like the sprinkles on the cupcake. Got together and did their hugs and had this amazing magical moment. Spent a few days in there, and that's kind of what fired off the whole experience for them, and then just letting them do them in there. I truthfully had about this much influence on what what went inside that grotto. It was just them. I just let them go do their thing and put no parameters other than just do the awesomest thing you can dream of in here. A place to display the Artist of the Year trophy back in the back corner back there. That was like really my influence. We could spend 4 hours making this video.
Yep.
And I could tell you a story about every little thing in here. We've taken such a long journey to get to this that we found all the pieces along the way.
So this was about a 7-year process culminating in about a 2-year build, correct?
Splash pad was the 7 years ago, that portion of it, but I'm gonna count weeks. We did 2, 3. I would sell this job for about a 3-month project. If I could just go start to finish, I could probably do it in 2 if the weather was great, depending on the team and the people and all the other factors that go into construction. But 2 to 3 month job for us to do this, and the magic of sourcing the trees. And a lot of these trees my buddy bought from Isley Nursery in 4-inch pots, and there's literally not a single tree in the view of the camera right now other than the woods in the back that we didn't bring in at some point during my career. We didn't call and order a load of rocks from the stone yard and just say bring us a load of 1 to 3 ton boulders. We drove to St. Louis and handpicked the rocks I wanted to have. I saw that rock laying there. I had no intention on buying a 12-foot long stone to build a waterfall in here. I just saw it. I'm like, that is the waterfall rock for the main falls. The goal here was to have it more peaceful and a place to swim for the kids and the fish. All the waterfalls here were to be very delicate, ornate, insignificant, nothing overwhelming. That was the whole goal for this area. Seeing those stones, we wouldn't have got that rock if I wouldn't have drove to St. Louis. We wouldn't have got this rock if I wouldn't have drove to St. Louis. Just all the pieces like that.
So technically, without all those details, you could have probably done it in half the time for half the cost.
Oh, absolutely. We started thinking about what we could do this job for, and I'm guessing somewhere in another location without this and without that, we could hit this space and do it for $500,000. To do it like this, $1 million plus, depending on what part of the world you're in, you know?
Yep. What was the trickiest part of this build?
I'd say logistics. Well, the retaining wall is technically my property line. I have use of the land on the other side of it, but it doesn't belong to us. We had to build the wall, and it forced us to work within this little itty bitty space. So strategically thinking inside the box, keeping the grotto within its limited realm. I mean, it's just tight. It's very vertical on the other side over there. Pulling that off and not making it look like a rock pile was really hard. I think just every detail that we did here was at the highest level of complexity that it could be. We spent an extra week on the flat work against the side of the house and building the footer. I talked to a builder friend of mine. He pulled in his structural engineer friend, and we talk about what happens when I put 6 feet of vertical water up the side of my house. And that conversation brings in, do this if you want to go overkill, do the footer across the bottom. You know, I'm not a concrete guy. I'm just listening to people who have great big brains tell me what they would do if it was theirs and going with it. So doing the form work and pouring concrete and doing veneer stone, and that's all really not my gig. We can do anything, but that doesn't make it the right plan. But here it made sense for us to do it. Having this patio finished at its existing level, and then having to come in and bring these interaction stones perfectly in flat with the patio. The integration is perfect. We weren't going to settle for almost anywhere. But if you look how close the water level is in the pond, there's 2.5 inches of stone sticking out right there to the water. That liner comes up on the outside of the pavers. The pond liner comes up on the inside of the pond, and you have this much room for water level in there. There's just no play on anything. It took a team 2 days to go 1, 2, 3, 4 rocks long from the house to this interaction stone, and that's not even the edge work and the connecting and all the details that go with it. That's just getting it to the right grade. This rock has to be tall enough so that it's submerged down in the water. The bottom of it can't be above water, and the top of it has to be the right height so that it's good to sit on when there's not a fire in here. It's seating.
How many non-teammates did you have working on this? Because the majority of the work was done by your team in between or after hours or in place of doing a project for a customer, but you also brought in some certified Aquascape contractors.
I brought in people that I like to work with, that I know are artistic and hardworking. And
But you also brought in Franco, so why him?
Don't listen, Franco, do this. No. No, I brought in Franco because I've worked with him a lot, and he's just fun to be around. He's a good dude, and we have a good time when we're in the hole. So there was a guy named Will that came in and worked with his son, and he's working on becoming a certified contractor. He's not even there yet. What do you hope to bring from this? What do you want to learn? He's like, somehow you're doing the waterfalls and the edge detail and the jets. And
what would you put as the technical specifications to this project?
from the grotto waterfall to here, probably 100 tons of stone. Tennessee mountain boulders that are in here are probably max size 4 tons per boulder, and limestone probably 3 tons, the biggest stones that are in here. We have one pump to run these waterfalls. We have one pump that runs the jets. So those two come into here. Although there's no filtration on this end, we would push the wetland down over the other side of the grotto because we didn't have real estate. Well, normally everybody puts the wetland above the pond or in the pond.
But that's where the patio is right here.
That's where the patio is, and it was already done. It just didn't fit, and it didn't make sense. But I think the way the functionality goes of a feature and what you see in nature, the water flow increases as it goes down the mountain and more water gets poured in. Actually, it worked out to be more organic anyways in the whole scheme of things, because you have 2 pumps that go over the top of the grotto and then a pump that comes up through the wetland. That would be the third. There's only 3 pumps running it. So the third pump is an upflow through the wetland filter, and then those 3 do the negative edge out of the wetland and create the whole waterfall down into the rainwater basin down there.
What did you learn, or what was confirmed with you doing this project?
One of the biggest things for me is that it's much more enjoyable for me to do a project when I'm not pushed to hit a timeline. The production work, I can do it, but I don't get nearly as much joy out of the creativeness if I have to be done by this point. To be able to just go in and have ideas and implement them and have enough creative freedom to just let the project evolve while it's happening, that was massive for me.
So here's the big question now. Now that you are living with it, now that you just finished it about 6 weeks ago or so,
Yep.
is there anything you would change or do differently?
Always. I never ever do a project and don't get to the end and say, what would I do next time? If I had to determine that I was going to do the grotto ahead of time, I would have had some kind of little cubby hole or a little secret door where the kids could go in through the grotto. So it would have totally allowed me to just cut a hole in the side, because, you know, it's cool that it's secret and you have to go through the water to get in there.
Yep.
But at the same time, if the kids had some little cubby or something and they could just cruise right in and go in from the side, I'm sure they would have a really good time with that.
If you could go back in time, what would you tell yourself at the beginning of this project?
Probably planning the whole thing. For me, I just got piles of stuff everywhere, right? I got materials, I got mountains of driftwood and rocks all over the place, and I got all these things, and you don't think about the grand scope of a job, and then you do a piece and the yard's a mess. I destroyed my yard and everything slopes to my house. So I've basically been living in mud for years. I make a wreck of it, and then it slowly comes back, and then we do the next phase and wreck it again. Do it at once, man. Save the time, save the money all up, and then just knock the thing out in one phase, start to finish. Probably the money I would have saved in multiple rental equipments, and I don't know mentally if I could have handled it, but you know, maybe 2-3 weeks on and then take 10 days and get your head together, whatever. There's a way, but don't make it last 5 years, I guess, is the short version of that story. That's what I would have told myself.
How many videos did you produce on YouTube around this project?
So far, I want to say about 25. From the time we finished the wetland, I don't think I had another video from the wetland to the reveal. But going from kind of mentality of people were impatient and just wanted to see the end, and I didn't have an editor available to me that was doing what I wanted done with the footage. I didn't feel like somebody was going to share the story.
Right.
And it just made sense to do where we were and then show everybody the finish line. And now I'm going to circle back and talk about what happened in the grotto and how that went in the rain. That was literally the first time that I ever got rained out on a job. It was raining so hard that there was literally a sheet of mud, liquid mud, was just washing down the hill, down my driveway. I was pushing mud soup with the skid steer. And I bet it rained probably 5 to 7 inches of rain the week we had to put the grotto in. And we set one of those big column stones, something that should have taken an hour. And we spent 3 hours moving mud, bringing in soil, compacting it. And when we set it down, it just sunk like this much and all the plumbing, and I'm like, we can't do it. It can't be done. We just threw in the towel and said we're gonna have to wait and handle what's not finished next time. And I mean, what a great plan that was, because the next time we come back, we worked 4 weeks. I think it rained just a little for 2 days in that 4 weeks. Everything that we were fighting so hard with was super easy, and the pieces went into place.
Any last final wrap-up thoughts about anything regarding your personal paradise?
Understand in your head and in your heart that it's life-changing. It's easy to say that as a guy who builds ponds for people. When I go back to people's homes, inevitably showing me pictures of the kids' graduation in front of the waterfalls, or the family get-together by the pond, or the kids are swimming and they're feeding the fish, it's not a pitch. It's real. I come out here and I roll into this thing and it's just joy, man. Seeing my fish is joy, it's peace. It is the best part of the beginning of my day. It is the coolest part of the end of my day. I love when the kids come and swim, and inviting the family over, and
inviting us over. We sat out here last night and got serenaded by Nick and Tristan on the guitar and the bongo and just had a blast.
I think it's never gonna end, and it makes it a lot easier for me to share with the world what an impact this can really have on your life. I can't relate to what money is from one person to the next. This was a big investment for me where I'm at financially. I think there's a lot of people out there that don't have this, and this would be nothing to them. Like, they have cars or jewelry that cost as much as what this pond would cost. And it's the coolest thing in my life and the happiest place. I just look forward to thousands of hours with my people out here in this magical space. Do it like you mean it, because I gave up my new Mustang to do more stuff out here. There's a lot of things that I was gonna do that I decided to slide all those chips over into the pond department, and I have no regrets for it.
Well, you now officially have, in my opinion, the nicest certified Aquascape contractor personal pond, John.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. That was the goal. Boom!